Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Ravenclaw channel, and today we are going to start our series on macros. A lot of you have asked a bunch of questions since my last video, so what I'm going to be doing is going through every single facet about macros, how to make them, what they do, when to use them, what cool things can you do, just everything. So you will have a complete series on how to create insane macros, and hopefully it'll answer every single one of your questions that you have had since I made the last video. But yeah, the main thing that I want to do with this series is just to focus on the key points, and then at the end of it we'll then start making other bits and pieces as we go along. The other thing I want to say before we get started is we're going to, on my website, I'll have my macros that I use. So I know that's a question that's already been asked. So links are all going to be in the description for everything that I bring up throughout this video. One more thing I do want to mention in the line of coaching and everything like that. I am now partnered up with a new awesome group. They've got an app out, it's called Gank, and I do a bit of coaching and stuff over there. If you're looking for extra help in WoW or anything like that, if you're looking for someone to play with, or even if you're just looking for someone to just help you master your class, head on over to the to Gank. The link is in the description, and go and check them out. They're absolute legends over there. Alright, let's get into it. So, firstly, what is a macro? So a macro simply allows you to perform multiple actions with one click of a button, essentially. So this could be anything from equipping some armor, to using an item in your bag, to using multiple spells and all that greatness. But one thing I do want to mention straight up, because this is one of the questions that has been brought up a fair bit, is macros are not made to automate your game. If you're looking for macros to automate your game, then one, that's just crazy, because that's going to take all of the fun out of the game. But two, they will not do that. And another thing is, don't rely on macros to, increase your DPS or anything of the sort. They are just there to help with utility, to decrease the amount of actions you've got on your action bar there, make things neater, and perform some pretty cool things, which I will show you later on in the series. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way because that has been asked a lot. Okay, alright, so how do you create a macro? So in game, you can either do it one of two ways. You can press escape and go to the macro screen, and then you can, I've got something here, tutorial, there you go. And you can simply start typing in here, or to also get to this screen, you can just type /M in chat and it'll open up the same screen. Alright, now in this video I want to discuss two of the key features of macros, and those are your commands and your conditions. So first we'll talk about commands. So commands are your / commands that you can type in chat, and a macro essentially is a miniature add-on, if you could say that, because they perform the same actions as an add-on will, and we'll get into scripting down the track. But you all would have seen, /say or your / cast or anything like that. You can do that all within the chat bar. So what I want to do is go through the list of commands that are available to you, give you a little bit of an understanding of what they're like, and once again, all of this information you can find on my website. So yeah, let's go through it. Now, you have some things called, hopefully I've got them on the screen for you. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the meta commands, and what those are is, if we have a look in the where are we? Okay, so you might have come across the #show tooltip. Okay, and what that means is you can have, when you have a macro, let's just create a macro now. So we'll say cast flare. Flare. All right, boom. Okay, now what this does, if we put this down in our bar, we'll just put it here. Okay, it allows the macro to show the tooltip of the available or the current spell, item, or piece of gear, or whatever it is. So that means, in this case, cast Flare. So Flare is the only spell in this macro, and it will show you the tooltip. Now, if you do just show, you'll see it's the name of the macro. You can also do the, let's say you want Freezing Trap. Okay, it'll actually change the icon and the tooltip to whatever spell you put after it. So yeah, that's just the little tips you can have there if you want to make, you know, specific macros. Another thing that I want to make sure you know is, if you want a more of a dynamic icon, dynamic means it'll change based on the spell icon that's available. You need to make sure you select the question mark, because if you go ahead and select one of these, it won't show. It'll just show the icon that you chose. All right. Now we've got things like cancel aura. Cancel aura means if you've got, like, for example, turtle shell, anything that's up here. So these buffs, they're called auras. And cancel aura will allow you to take off whatever buff you have. So like blessing of protection or things like that, you can actually remove that. This is great if, like, say you have just been bopped and you want to perform an action, or you want to cast a spell, or whatever it may be. You can just remove the bop, and it will then go on and continue the macro. Cancel form is the same thing, a similar thing. It just means, like, for druids, if you're in cat form, it'll just take you out of cat form. You've got assist. Now assist is referring to, let's say you've got a target, and it will assist your selected target. Okay, now we've got cast. So cast is pretty much straightforward. It is just a cast macro, meaning use the spell or item. This is the same as use. So use item in your bag or whatever, or, you know, cast a spell. Now we've got cast sequence. Cast sequence allows you to cast multiple spells one after another in a sequential form. This is great if you've got actions you would like to do one after another, for example, like tar trap and then your flare. And you might say, well, why can't I just do them like cast flare, cast tar trap? Is because of the global cooldown. We'll get into global cooldown later on, but generally speaking, if you have you know, cast flare, cast trap, cast this, cast that, the macro will read the first spell and then try and check the next spell to see if it's available. If it's part of the global cooldown, it won't work because at that time it wasn't available. What have we got? We've got clear focus. We'll simply clear the focus that you have on your screen. Clear target. Once again, it will just deselect the target that you've got. You've got dismount, which will dismount you from, like, if you, I'll show you right now. You type dismount in chat, it'll just take you off your mount. Focus will allow you to set a focus. So this is great if you're in a dungeon and you always want to focus the tank or whichever. You can do cast, a set, where is it? Focus party 1 or party 2, or whichever one you like, or some, you know, a player's name. We've got pet assist and pet attack. Pet assist means it will put the pet on assist and will help you obviously attack your target. Pet attack means it will order your pet to attack. And you'll not have noticed in some of my macros you'll see pet attack. It just means that when I switch targets, it'll tell my pet to attack that or attack whoever I'm switching to. You've got pet auto cast off and on. This means these things here, so you can see this little bar around the growl, that's auto cast on, and you can turn it off. You've got pet defensive, pet follow, pet passive, and pet stay. They're all pretty self-explanatory. The next one, you have start attack. This means it will start your auto attack on the target that you've selected. You got stop attack, stop casting. So stop attack is This is pretty much the opposite of start attack. And stop casting. This is great for some classes. Like before, counter shot now stops casting. So, like for example, I don't know if this is going to work, but where is it? Let's select this one here. Let's do this. So you can see how it actually interrupted the cast. Back in the day, that didn't actually happen. And some things don't do that. So cancel cast will actually stop you from casting, or stop casting, sorry. Stop macro. If you've got a macro that has script in it that runs over some seconds or whatever, you can actually use stop macro, and it will stop the current process that is running from the macro you just selected. Swap action bar. So I've got bartender, so that won't work. You've got swap action bar, and I think the bars run from 1 to 6 or something like that. It'll just simply swap out the action bar that you have down the bottom, especially if you're using the default UI. Okay, so this one here, this next one is target. So target, you can either set a target. It doesn't matter who it is. You can target yourself, your player, your pet, whoever you want. You can target enemy, target friends. So target enemy is like almost like a tab target sort of thing. Like you can target the enemy like I'm doing here, or you can target a friend. What else have we got? Target friend player, target enemy player. So this will only focus on player controlled units. So instead of like this tab target going around and targeting all the enemies, you can have it so it just targets friendly players. That's great for healers and things like that. So target last target. Okay, why would you find this useful? Okay, so let's say for example, where are we? This guy here is the boss. Okay, and you've switched targets over here to perform an action. If you have target last target in your macro, it will deselect this target, do something over here, and then go back to this last. It's the last target that you had selected. So if I went here and then went over here, it'll go back obviously to the last target. Yes, that was a long explanation for something quite simple. Okay, target last friend, same thing. Target last enemy is also the same thing as what we've been discussing. Target party obviously means anyone in your party, and target raid, obviously anyone in the raid. Use talents will be able to allow you to select the specific talent that you want to use. Anything that's in the talent tree, talent columns, whatever you want to call them now. I'm just giving you an explanation of these commands so we can have an understanding for later on when we start making more advanced macros. And use random, meaning use random item or use random spell or whatever you like. You can do some pretty cool things with that, and we'll get into those ones later. So those ones are the main commands that you have. There is another one, /click, but we'll talk about that in the next episode, because that one you can actually really make some pretty cool things with. Alright, now let's look at conditions. Alright, now let's have a look at conditions. So the conditions refer to what you would like to happen if something is either present, selected, available, or so on and so forth. Essentially, it needs to return true, whatever you've said to happen, in order for the action to be performed. And we'll have a look at the conditions now. So your targeting conditions are exists, meaning if your target exists or you have one selected. Help and harm refer to either is your selected target an enemy, or either selected target or your proposed target an enemy or a friendly player. So help, friendly, harm, enemy. Dead checks to see whether the unit is dead. Pretty straightforward. Party or raid, that's a check to see if you want to cast a spell or do an action on someone that's in your party or your raid. Unit has vehicle UI. That will refer to if you are, if you're in, like, you know, one of the, like a buggy or something like that. Anything that changes UI when you jump in a vehicle, or you have that little red arrow button to exit the vehicle. Okay, now the next ones are evaluated if they're against you as the player. You can exit a vehicle, meaning that you're in a vehicle and you have the option to leave the vehicle. Channeling, that's obviously if you're, let's say you're casting a spell, and you see this little channeling bar that comes across, like if you're like using drain life or anything of the sort. Check whether you're in combat, so the combat condition. Now you can see if you've got a certain piece of gear equipped or worn. Now flyable, this is great if you want to make like a multi-mount macro. You can check whether you're flyable or not flyable, meaning can you summon your mount that can make you fly if you're in an area you have flying enabled. Check whether you're flying at the same time to be able to create a macro. Now form or stance, things like if you're in defensive stance, or I think like same with rogues as well. So stances are the different, I guess, like stealth and stuff like that. I want to say forms, but that's not right in my mind. Check whether you're in a group or like a party or a raid. Once again, you've got indoors and outdoors. That's straightforward. Check whether or not you're on a mount. Now you can check also if you need to do anything regarding your pet. You can check for if you've got a certain pet out by its name or its family, whether you're in a pet battle or not. If you're in a resting zone, you can create an action based if it's true, I guess, if you're in a resting zone, based on what spec you're in, whether or not you're in stealth or not, swimming, and if you've got a specific talent selected in which row or column. The last I'm going to mention are against the user interface, so things that you see on the screen. So the first being the action bar number. So remember how we referred to switching action bars? Don't worry if you don't know the numbers or any of that. I'm going to have it all listed for you in possibly the next episode. Bonus bar, meaning that you have you're on a quest and you've got this little extra bar that pops up. Now buttons. This refers to which button you are clicking. I'm not going to get too much into this because this will actually come up when we talk about like the click function and doing other sort of advanced macros. Cursor means your mouse, wherever your mouse or cursor is on the screen. Your extra bar, I believe. Now, the extra bar, I've never actually used this, but I believe that's to do with the extra bars that you get on the side of your screen here when you have the normal UI. Modifier, that refers to your shift, control, and alt keys. Possess bar, it means when you're being, obviously you're possessed or you're being controlled by another player, you get the different bars on the screen here. Whether you can shapeshift or you're shapeshifted, and vehicle UI, once again when you're in a vehicle and you have the user interface up. But yeah, so those are the conditions. Now once again, conditions are if something is true. So let's say if your unit exists and is an enemy, cast Cobra Shot. Okay, but all I really wanted you to gain out of this video is just an understanding of the conditions, a little bit of like, okay, what do they mean, when would I use them, and so on and so forth. So that's all I wanted to explain in this first video. Get that out of the way, because then we can actually start getting into the cool stuff in the next video. This went on for a little bit longer than I wanted to, but it's important that we get the fundamentals solid, and with anything that you do, the fundamentals are the most important, so that way you can then have a better understanding as we move forward. Once again, go and check out my website. It'll have all links are in the description. It'll have all my macros and every other resource that you might need as we go through the series. Any questions, please head over to my Discord and hit me up over there. I'm always on Discord now. And yeah, if you haven't already, head over to my Patreon page if you do want to support myself and any future add-on developments that are going on. And other than that, you amazing hunters out there, you keep on sniping, and I'll see you all in the next video.